Picture this: Germany, 1919. Defeated, demoralized, and forced to sign a treaty that made them the world's villains. The Treaty of Versailles, they called it. More like the Treaty of Vengeance, if you ask me. This treaty, it was brutal, mate. It stripped Germany of its pride, its land, and most importantly, its military might. No more than 100,000 soldiers, a handful of ships, no air force whatsoever. Talk about kicking a man when he's down. But you see, the Germans are a resourceful bunch. They knew they couldn't stay down forever. They yearned for the day they could rise again, stronger than ever. And so, in the shadows, they started to plot. Oh yes, the Germans always have a plan. The Treaty of Versailles? It was like trying to keep a lid on a boiling kettle. The Germans, they found ways around it, cleverly exploiting loopholes and bending the rules. They were like magicians, making tanks disappear and reappear as tractors. Genius. They couldn't build an air force? No problem. They set up flying clubs, training pilots under the guise of civilian aviation. Those Tiger Moths were just a bit too maneuverable for a spot of afternoon tea, weren't they? And the weapons? Well, they couldn't produce them openly, could they? So, they did it secretly, in hidden factories and underground facilities. The Allies, they thought they'd disarmed Germany, but the Germans were just playing a different game. A game of stealth, cunning, and hidden agendas. Now, every good plan needs a mastermind, and Germany had its fair share. One name that stands out is General Hans von Seeckt. A brilliant strategist, Seeckt saw the limitations of the Treaty of Versailles not as a setback, but as a challenge. Seeckt created the Reichswehr, a smaller but highly trained army. He focused on quality over quantity, developing new tactics and technologies. He also secretly encouraged the development of forbidden weapons, like tanks and aircraft. But Seeckt wasn't alone. There were others working in the shadows, pulling the strings. Industrialists, scientists, and politicians all played their part in Germany's secret rearmament. They knew the risks, but they also knew the potential rewards, a chance to restore Germany to its former glory. Section 4. Building a war machine. Tanks, planes, and sneaky strategies. Germany's rearmament was a masterpiece of deception. They built tanks under the guise of agricultural machinery, and aircraft factories were disguised as furniture workshops. They even developed submarine designs in secret, ready to be unleashed when the time was right. One of their most cunning ploys was collaborating with other countries like Russia to develop and test their weapons. They sent officers abroad for training, learning from the best in the world. And all the while, they maintained a facade of compliance with the Treaty of Versailles. By the early 1930s, the German military was a force to be reckoned with. They had a modern army, a powerful air force, and a growing navy. The sleeping giant was awakening, and the world would soon feel its wrath. Section 5. The Nazis take charge. From restrictions to ruthless power. And then came the Nazis. In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power, and he wasted no time in exploiting the military machine that had been built in secret. Hitler saw the military as a tool to achieve his goals of expansion and domination. The restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles were cast aside. Germany openly rearmed, expanding its army, building a massive air force, and creating a formidable navy. The world watched in horror as Hitler, fueled by ambition and a lust for power, unleashed the dogs of war. The German military, once a shadow of its former self, had become a formidable war machine. The consequences would be devastating, plunging the world into another global conflict. The seeds of war, sown in the ashes of defeat, had finally borne their bitter fruit.